Going into this college basketball season, Cooper Flagg was being labeled as one of the best prospects we've seen in a while. He's been called a future first overall pick since he was like 16 years old, and he even got to practice with Team USA over the summer. So with all the hype surrounding him, he was expected to play well right away, and that's exactly what he's done. Right now, Cooper's leading a 15-2 Duke team in literally every stat as a freshman. He just became the youngest player in NCAA history to score 40+ points in a game, and also became the first 17-year-old to have multiple games with 20 points and 10 rebounds. He's not only playing extremely well, but he's doing it while being the youngest player on the court basically at all times, which is even more impressive considering the fact that in today's era, you have guys playing as long as they want. We're just halfway through the season, and Cooper's had 5 double-doubles and 8 20-point games, including a masterclass performance against Notre Dame. He finished that game with 42 points on 80% shooting and even had 7 assists. He actually scored or assisted on all but 6 made shots. And he's not just putting up crazy stat lines, the highlights are there too. So far through 17 games, he's averaging almost 19 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and over 1 steal and block per game. He just turned 18 years old. Those numbers are incredible for anybody, but to be able to do most of that at only 17 is super impressive. Not to mention, he's getting noticeably better as the season goes on. Cooper is an absolute monster in the paint, so it's no surprise that's where most of his points come from. He can get to the rim pretty easily and can finish in so many different ways. Plus, he's one of those dudes that can dunk everything, which makes him that much harder to guard. He definitely still can use some work in the finishing department, but it's still one of the strongest parts of his game. He's clearly figuring out the best ways to score on bigger and taller defenders, and really that's what college is there to do. I'd rather him try stuff and find out that it doesn't work than not have the confidence and never really know. But something that pairs really well with his dominance in the paint is his ability to stretch the floor. I'm not saying Cooper is a knockdown 3-point shooter, but the fact that he's able to keep the defense honest and make them have to step up is huge. An NBA example of this is Anthony Davis. When he's actually taking those open threes, defenses will have to respect it, even if he's not making them. That creates better driving lanes for him and his teammates as well. That's what we're seeing with Cooper Flagg. He's currently shooting 35% from 3, which is really solid. Over his last 5 games alone, he's been shooting almost 60% while taking 4 of them a game. His jump shot actually looks pretty solid, and we've seen him step into threes or pull up in transition multiple times as well. When everything's clicking for him, he's borderline unstoppable. That's what we saw against Notre Dame. That's the vision. But then defensively, he's just as dominant. Cooper can rebound the ball well while also being able to block almost any shot that comes near him. But it's more than just his ability to block shots, it's the physicality that he brings before the shot is even attempted. He does a good job at not letting opposing players get to their spots, and even if they do, they still have to get it up without being blocked. He's one of those guys that makes certain players avoid driving to the paint at all. Plus, he's constantly in the passing lanes and can guard around the perimeter better than a lot of players at his height can. Then the last thing I'll highlight is a huge part of his game that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and that's his playmaking. Although he's obviously not perfect, he's shown that he can find open teammates no matter where they're at on the court. He's averaging 4 assists a game right now and has also been the main distributor for this Duke team. His assists come in a lot of different ways too. Sometimes he'll find an open shooter while he has his back to the basket, and other times he'll find the open cutter when basically setting up the team's offense. It's rare to see someone at 6'9" that can play either position in the pick and roll. He doesn't make the best decisions at times, but you kinda expect that from a freshman, let alone a freshman trying to prove he's the #1 pick in the draft. But like I said earlier, Duke is a really solid team, and Cooper Flagg is a big reason why. However, he's not the only reason. The system he's in and the players he has around him are a lot better than box scores might show. I mean, 3 out of their 4 leading scorers are all freshmen, and that includes Knuppel, Maluach, and Isaiah Evans, who have all been really good. I'm not saying they have the best roster in the country, but they have put together a really good team that clearly enjoys playing together. They don't really have any selfish players. They've put together some of the best ball movement plays I've seen so far this season. The team is 15-2 and first in the ACC for a reason. Their only losses come from some really good teams. Their first loss came against Kentucky, who's now 14-3. Despite Cooper having a 26-point double-double, he had 2 turnovers in the final possessions, which sealed their fate. It was only the 3rd game of the year, and it was also the first really tough game of his college career. Then their second loss was against Kansas, who at the time was ranked as the #1 team in the country. It was another up and down game for Cooper Flagg, but it's gonna be like that as he's the main guy and will get the most defensive attention. I've seen a lot of people calling him overrated as the season has gone on, but I don't really agree with that at all. Cooper does have his fair share of flaws, but what player at his age doesn't? I also don't agree with the people calling him generational, but I do think he can easily be a cornerstone piece to a franchise. The word generational is for guys like Wemby who are 7'4" and can put back dunk their own 3-pointers. The reason Cooper has the hype that he does is because how much of a complete player he is. He can score, shoot, drive, pass, get steals, block shots. He can do all those things pretty well. People are also saying that he shouldn't be drafted first overall, but that doesn't surprise me knowing people said to draft Scoot Henderson over Wemby. You're drafting him off potential alone. There's no need to overthink anything. He's a very complete player already at 18 years old. Now it's just up to who's going to be the team that gets to draft him. At the moment, the worst teams in the league are the Wizards, Hornets, Raptors, Jazz, and Pelicans. Although you still could throw in the Nets, Blazers, and even 76ers the way their season is going. With a draft lottery, really any one of those teams could end up with the first overall pick. The Wizards had the 2nd pick in last year's draft, and a front court of Alex Sarr and Cooper Flagg would be pretty cool. The Hornets would be a really fun team for him to play for, especially with the future of LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. The Raptors have a really solid core as well, and who knows what that Jazz roster is going to look like by the end of the season. The one team I do not want him to play for is the Pelicans, and that's only because they are the most cursed franchise in the league at this point. If he got drafted to the Pelicans, he would be hurt within 30 minutes of the selection. The Nets are trading away pieces and are probably only getting worse as the season goes on, so they will have a chance at the top pick. The Blazers have a nice young core that would fit perfectly with Cooper Flagg, and who knows, we might even see the 76ers in talks for the first pick. Adding Cooper Flagg to that already really stacked roster, at least on paper, would be pretty crazy. Unlikely, but still pretty crazy. It feels like just yesterday everyone was talking about his Peach Jam performances in AAU, and now we're actually talking about him becoming the first overall pick everyone hyped him up to be. Let's not forget, this dude just came off a 34-0 season at Montverde and won basically every high school award you can, again while being younger than everyone in his class. His ceiling is extremely high, and even if he doesn't quite live up to the hype once he's actually in the league, his floor is still really high as well. He plays with a ton of energy regardless if he's playing well or not, and on top of his physical abilities, he appears to be a great leader as well. But let me know what you think about Cooper Flagg down in the comments below, and please leave a like on the video to support the channel. Also subscribe if you're new for more basketball videos just like this one.